Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
Hello, I'm Clark Kent. Can you tell I'm Superman? Superman's James Gunn is brought to you courtesy of Krispy Kremes, because when I left the cinema today, that's the good old-fashioned IMAX in Waterloo, I suddenly found myself at a crossroads where a very sexy lady in the very not-so-sexy Krispy Kreme hut just by the corner of the station had these for sale. So guess what? Not only was it just a Superman donut, but oh, there was a Wonder Woman and a Batman special edition as well. They're right here if you can see them, and they'll be devoured by me later on. And yes, one has been devoured already because my mum was hungry. And guess what? So am I, but I've got to film this review.
When people tune in to an authentic movie review, it's not Jeremy Johns or Chris Stuckman. They turn to Kung Fu Hot Dog instead.
Now, when it comes to event movies, what springs to your mind? And don't say Debbie Does Dallas, because that's all reserved for school days. Oh yes, cheerleading will never be the same again. But I'm thinking about, of course, Jaws from Steven Spielberg, which they ran a trailer for today at the awesome IMAX cinema.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
And then, of course, Lord of the Rings trilogy for me, definitely event movies unto themselves. How can I forget the 1978 classic from Richard Donner, Superman, starring Christopher Reeve, Gene Hackman, and Margot Kidder. Or is it Margot Kidder? That was a massive event. Star Wars, obviously, was another big event movie. Reluctantly, would I call Marvel's Endgame the last event movie ever? Probably, but then it also foreshadowed what was going to happen after when it became the MCU.
Don't worry.
Hello, I'm
She's got
Anna,
her.
your automated nut.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, in my hand right here is the 20th anniversary edition of James Gunn's The Specials, a very deranged superhero movie made on a very, very low budget. I acquired this last year through an American website that they will send the item out to you, but it was never guaranteed you might actually receive it. But I paid $37 for it, which is pretty much chicken change. Now, what do I think of this movie? Well, if you want an insight into the sick mind of James Gunn, forget the PG porn stuff, this film has one or two jokes I cannot repeat to you in this video, because honestly, it will just send people into an absolute frenzy. Although my favorite moment is this gem right here.
Small.
Well, that's pretty stupid.
Better than Mr. Smart.
Better than Captain Cuntface, too.
But by the end of the film, I was thinking, huh? Where's this big climax, the bloody, brutal, violent climax that I heard so much about? It was just an urban myth. But what can I say? So the Specials wasn't really that special. But James Gunn made up for that in 2010 with Super, starring Rainn Wilson and then Ellen Page, she was in it.
All it takes to be a superhero is the choice to fight evil.
Shut up, crime.
Now that was a good film. Sick, twisted. The ending was absolutely, holy moly, it really was a literal blow your face off moment. But I guess James Gunn was recompensing for the fact that The Specials was ill received. So walking into this movie in a very packed IMAX theater, I will say, I didn't really know what to expect. I heard a lot of things, and that's probably something I would say has hurt the movie quite a bit. All the rumors, and by the way, folks, I should have prefaced this at the very beginning of the top of the video, but I will be dropping spoilers galore because there's no way I can actually record a video and not give you snippets here, there, and everywhere like a fast talking salesman in a boiler room, because that's the kind of girl I am. But honestly, there'd be spoilers that you probably know about already. You haven't seen the film yet. You're in 50-50 state of mind. Do I go and watch it? Do I not? But I'll tell you, I'm gonna go and watch it again next week because, believe it or not, I actually enjoyed James Gunn's Superman more than I expected.
Watch this space.
It's been a hell of a week at the office.
Yes, hallelujah, it's the video show. And now, the man the BBC calls
Jason King on Kung Fu Hot Dog.
Now, getting the baby oil out of the way, let's just get on with the basic story of this film. So there's two warring factions, two made-up countries. One is called Baravia, the other one is Jayanpur. And of course, you could probably say that's very, very close to real-life warring events in the real world, but we'll just leave that aside because I'm not getting political here on my channel. And Lex Luthor, Mr. Luthor, played by Nicholas Hoult, could be the mastermind behind what's been happening between these two warring countries. Because let's face it, folks, if you've got a guy called Lex who's dealing with arms and getting people to spend billions on his technology, and I will say, do you get a little bit of a hint that this Lex Luthor may have a battle suit of his own that we could see in a Superman sequel. I said it, a Superman sequel is probably going to happen. It will happen. Now, straight off the bat, I'm going to say this. The whole film is just gloriously gorgeous to look at. It really is. It's like my 4K camera right here. All the colors just pop. And speaking of popping, folks, I'll be getting back to that point later on as well. But Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, surprisingly underused. I was a bit, this is not the Margot Kidder Lois Lane who gets really in your face in a really good kind of way. When this film begins, everything is by the rule of three. So 3 centuries ago, this happened. And then 30 years ago, this person came in a spaceship and crash landed in the Kansas farm. And then
you said it's an immigrant story. It's a political movie. MAGA today is going nuts. What do you have to say to MAGA? I don't have anything. I think this movie's for everybody. I don't have anything to say to anybody. Like, I'm not here to judge people, you know.
I like that because I think that the immigrant story, I mean, clearly that's kind of what he's about.
3 hours ago that happened, and 3 minutes ago this happened. So everything's in 3. It was just kind of funny that all happened. And I will say, just the way this film looks is so beautiful, man. Oh God, it's like it's almost like they've kind of taken like Joss Whedon's vision and Zack Snyder's and meshed them all together, and then you get this brand new version from James Gunn. David Corran Sweat as Kal-El / Superman. How is he? Well, we already saw from the trailers, the man is totally magnificent. He looks every inch, fiber and being of the late great Christopher Reeve, whose son Will, a real life anchorman for the ABC Good Morning America TV show, makes 2 fleeting cameo appearances in the background, which is pretty cool actually. And I knew that already. The fact that Corran Sweat embodies the late great Christopher Reeve just in looks, and even some of the tonality he comes out with, is just absolutely astounding. Well, when it comes to the flying scenes of James Gunn's Superman, how do they stand up against Zack Snyder's Man of Steel? Well, I'll say for this particular outing, this reinterpretation, reimagining of Superman, they're pretty good because the whole film itself is like one gigantic comic book as you turn the pages. Whereas Man of Steel from 2013 was a more grounded, realistic approach. Also, at the time when I was watching the behind the scenes stuff of that particular film, Zack Snyder's approach was, well, how do we make flying through the skies in a realistic manner look believable, not goofy? Obviously, Christopher Nolan was involved in that film in a backseat capacity, so what you ended up with was pretty much the overall tone of that film. And I think for that particular movie, it worked a hell of a treat.
Where we got to try on Henry Cavill's Superman suit, which is an amazing piece of costuming, technological innovation. It's an incredible suit and beautifully made.
Now I want to talk about the Justice League gang because I'm a big fan of the cartoon series Justice League Unlimited. I own both the Steelbook and the non-Steelbook editions. Hawk Girl, played by Isabella Macred, she was good, but she should have kept on a hawk helmet all of the time because that was kind of the mystery of the character. Although I believe in one of the cartoons, she does reveal her face and she's a real, oh no, she does. And she's a real smoking hot redhead from what I remember. Whoa. And Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, absolutely hilarious. I've got a friend of mine who's just been a DC nut ever since he was knee-high to a grasshopper. I think he will actually appreciate Guy Gardner as well. But Mr. Terrific, as played by Kenyan-born, raised in America, Eddie Katheji, is absolutely, wait for it, terrific. Now you see, Entertainment Weekly, you took Superman and said this film was absolutely super. I'm just going one better than you buffoons. But honestly, every single line that Katheji had, he just delivered in this faux Harlem New York accent. It was really cool. It's not what I expected to come from his mouth. He's a terrific actor, again, and a pun fully intended, and he also muscled up for the part. He looks good. When I used to watch Katheji in his earlier films, he was kind of a lean, mean machine, but here he got really buffed up, like he really took that seriously. I mean, he is a comic book fan like James Gunn, so I completely appreciate it. So he was absolutely, my God, probably one of the best characters in this film. And oh my God, Sarah Sampaio, woohoo, as Eve Tessmacher.
Wash it very, very well and put a lot of moisturizer because the seawater makes it very dry.
Surprisingly has a good deal of screen time. It's not as much as I would want it to be, but when she shows up in a very unexpected twist of fate, you kind of got that same feeling when Valerie Perrine played her in Richard Donner's all-time classic from 1978. They kind of revisit that again here in this, which I thought was pretty cool. But Sarah Sampaio as Eve Tessmacher, with legs that go on for miles and miles, to quote Pete Townsend and The Who, along with Roger Daltrey, is absolutely wonderful comic relief. She is. And there's one moment where she wraps her legs around somebody, and I just stood there thinking, that could be me and her one day, even though I know she's absolutely taken, and even though I know she's completely out of my league. Yeah, I know, I said it. However, this film is not without its editorial issues, because that big kaiju, that Japanese kaiju that you've seen it numerously in the trailers, when that thing appears, it's out of nowhere, because the scene before it, we see as a baby kaiju that runs into the river, and then about 2 scenes later, this thing's miraculously grown gigantic, but you don't know why it suddenly appears. It's just there as a distraction, and I know the film establishes that, but it just felt so out of place. And I know this film had to be re-edited quite a bit. James Gunn has said this was a longer cut than what we now have. So the big question I've got to ask to you, Mr. James Gunn, are we going to get an extended edition? Because I would love that, and so would other people too. We need that, because I felt a bit robbed at that moment. I was left scratching my head thinking, did I just miss something? Is this meant to be a prelude to something? But I confirmed with my friend in Eastern Europe, and he said the same thing. Yeah, it was a strange editing choice. Well, I was going to use something else to bounce off there, folks, but you know what trouble that will land me in, so we'll stick with the safe option right here. Anyway, let's get back to Michaela Hoover, who plays the Daily Planet's Cat Grant. Her key scenes, not very many I may add, but her heaving bosoms on that IMAX got me into a right old lather in my seat, I tell you. Because in the third act, Michaela's bosoms were occupying Mr. Terrific's cockpit of his ship. And I tell you what, even the look on Wendell Pierce's face as they were going up and down inside that spaceship had my eyes going up and down as well. We've got to address the James Gunn humor because this has been a topic of debate from many other content creators. I actually didn't find it jarring. I mean, I'm a guy who swims in total lunacy and buffoonery. So I guess when I'm watching a film that throws joke, no, it doesn't actually throw joke after joke and whatever sticks you laugh at. It's not like, to me, it wasn't that at all. I think a couple of times the jokes should have been left at the writer's room. Now, one example of this is where you have Lex Luthor and Superman facing off at the end, and it's a really great moment. But then I was taken back to Avengers from 2012, where Hulk picks up Loki and smashes him around like a rag doll. And something like that happens here, and I thought, oh, James, man, why did you have to do that for? That was a very key moment, and suddenly we were robbed of it. I just thought, man, I just wanted to see how that was going to play out. Maybe if we get an extended edition, that might happen. I don't know. We'll have to just wait and see. But the funniest, well, there's two funny scenes for me, actually. One is where Mr. Terrific takes Lois Lane to his garage to reveal his big spaceship. Now remember, folks, in one of my videos, I was scratching my head thinking, why is Lois Lane in a thing that looks like a UFO? Is it a LexCorp piece of technology that she's somehow got privy access to? No, it's Mr. Terrific's spacecraft parked in a garage. And the funniest visual joke of this is the door going up really, really slowly.
Is this as fast as this goes?
But a friend of mine said to me that was like filling in gaps for the film's plot. I just thought it was a very funny visual gag, and they actually, both characters actually make an observation about that because Lois Lane calls it out, and I thought that was really funny, and the audience were laughing. And in fact, the audience were laughing at a lot of the jokes in the film. Maybe a couple or two they just flew over their heads. The second joke, which I did actually like, is the fact that Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor is severely unhinged, but he throws something at Miss Tessmacher, and I burst out laughing in the cinema. I don't know why I did, but it was just such a very un-Lex thing to do. But then again, it could be a very Lex thing to do. But Sarah Sampaio's reaction was just so hilarious beyond belief. I just thought, wow, holy shit, they actually went to town on that. Lex Luthor, by the way, I mean, I've always said this about films where of this genre. Who do you root for more, the baddie or the goodie? And I think the way they played them both out is that you could see there might be a resolution. It could be a redemption arc for Lex, but he's so far gone in his insanity that how can you bring him back from the brink? I don't think you can do that to him. But honestly, he's like the Bond villain that you wished you had in the previous Bond film. He would have been so fantastic. Wears really cool watches, not power watches, proper men's watches, very tailored out, he's just like a GQ man walking around Metropolis. Absolutely loved all of that. And honestly, I found the villain a bit more, just a little bit more appealing than the main hero of the film. But I will go back to David Corran's sweat in a minute regarding that. But the overall tone in the movie was, to my tastes, very satisfying. In fact, the message of the film about being kind and showing kindness to all actually did hit a home run with me. Honestly, I don't know what it is, but you know, recently as well, I don't watch too many things on YouTube where they're just chasing drama clouds and going after certain people. I mean, I'm still gonna do that, but it has to be a reason that I do it now. Honestly, the whole pirate software thing. I mean, the guy's a complete douche anyway, but seriously, man, I just kind of stay away from that stuff now because I want to be here in the underground, like Paul Weller in the Jam, making these silly willy videos for you because YouTube apparently still likes me and they want me around. But my final verdict about Superman from James Gunn: it's a good film, but I want to see an unedited version that we should have gotten in the cinema. How do we go forward? And by the way, I've got to address this. This part took me by complete surprise. So get ready, folks. It's another spoiler coming right up. Supergirl, Millie Alcock. We get to see her. And she is the perfect embodiment of Michael Turner's Supergirl. You put the two side by side, it's a good match. And I tell you what, she's got the short skirt and she looks goddamn hot because John Campea, I remember when he was reacting to those drone shots of Supergirl fighting Lobo, those behind the scenes shots, and he said, oh boy, she's got the traditional short skirt, but I don't know why, you dirty young man, because you just want to goon for your own personal and private pleasure, don't you, Campea? When your wife goes out of the room, I know what you want to do, and who can blame you, sir? That's all I have to say. But Millie Alcock, she has a few lines to deliver, and there's a reason why she's there, and I won't spoil it for you, but absolutely it makes a lot of sense. But she looks good despite the jokes said about her online. She sounds great, she looks great, and she's playing a Supergirl from the comics, from Woman of Tomorrow, and I know what storyline they're going with, and it's good. Man, if they pull that off, that's going to be terrific. So have you seen Superman's James Gunn? I meant Superman's
Lois's. We were paired up into pairs of those pairs. You know, like a pair of shoes where it's one thing but two. Anyway.
James Gunn's Superman. Have you seen it yet? And are you going to watch it again like I am next week on the super screen, which actually makes so much more sense. So on that one, ladies and gentlemen, if I were you and if you were me, you should definitely check out James Gunn's Superman at a cinema next you. Until then, I'll catch you catching me for the return of the next video.
So it's important to know that building a superhero suit, it's not fucking easy.